This is the No BS Bishop Podcast. We're alive to love, and all other values are potential BS. Now here's your host, Bishop Randy Dean.
Welcome. I'm Randy Dean, sometimes known as Bishop, sometimes known as Pastor, most of the time known as Randy. So you call me what you want, and I'm here with a former parishioner, a stray sheep that I love dearly, and not a stray sheep. This is a friend who has always been a part of my geographic location, my spiritual location, and we're here to talk about what I like to talk about, spiritual refugees. No BS Bishop podcast, radio broadcast, other means by which I discuss this has to do with people just like the guy who is my engineer of the podcast.
Right.
So
easy guest to book.
I know, and it's incentive on both sides, so
Yeah.
we got to get together.
Yeah.
It's not just me nagging you or you nagging me. It's
Exactly.
mutual nag. To that end, my routine and my role is, I'm convinced after 50 years of pastoral ministry that this shift in the spiritual season of the United States of America is significant. I want to be part of it in whatever way I can at 72 and with 50 years of experience, to love and listen to people who are no longer invested in the brick and mortar of church. And that's a conversation Scott and I have had a lot.
Umpteen times,
Many
I think they
times.
say. Yeah.
And so 40 million people who have exited since the turn of the century. They've exited brick and mortar, especially just church. That can include synagogues and mosques, but I'm less familiar with them as I am more familiar with the Catholic Protestant Church. To that end, something's going on. We need to have an exit interview, and that's why I want to listen and love, not judge or crack a whip, get your butt back to the pew kind of idea at all, but to make sure that we don't miss this marker in history. And Scott and I have talked about this for the better part of 2 years now.
Right. Hi.
I need to hear so that I can love you and hear what you're saying, and I need to shut up and let you respond to this point now.
Sure. There's a lot to respond to there.
It is.
I guess to start out, I'm 44 looking down the barrel of 45 right now. And, that's, I think, the first stage where you start to take stock of a lot of this stuff. So, I mean, besides me just being a general narcissist. But no, I think that it's interesting because I think back to being in the church and reasons for leaving the church and a lot of that. And I think, like we talked about before, the very first thing for me that happened was I realized that the event of church wasn't appealing to me. I think there was a lot of other cracks, but I think like that's what ultimately went. And it wasn't like an anger at it, but just like the notion of like, okay, we're going to sing 3 songs now, then we'll have like a little money asking, then we're going to sing one more song, then we're going to have a speech, and then we're going to maybe close it up with a prayer, and then we're up. That was just something that like didn't appeal to me for 2 hours of my life each week. And so that was the very first, or that was the leave the church thing. I mean, there was a lot of little impetuses along the way. Without branding myself as it too much, I think I've always sort of been an LGBTQ advocate. Like, yeah. I think just being an 80s baby, kind of like learning about stuff and following the news and knowing that people were people, like really getting that like Jesus message of the church that I should be loving, and like that really just didn't ever seem to gel with we hate these people because they love different.
Right.
And so I guess that was even in, early middle school years that started to come up. And as someone who's a cis straight guy who's about as vanilla as can be, it's kind of shocking that would have been my really the first push out, but there really was, and there was never there was never really like a hatred moment. It was just like, this is something I don't really want to
Doesn't
do.
mesh.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and I'm with you from a different side of the pew, as it were, because I have always found myself trying to reconcile loving the world, which is to say 8 billion people. Not differently, not segregated. On that level, segregation has always been the church's worst historical enemy.
Yes.
The whitest hour in America is church. And
Well, depending on what church you go to.
well, that's true. That's right. Maybe I should say the most segregated hour or two in America can be the church. And I hated that. I just despised that about us, that it wasn't right. It wasn't equitable to what Jesus talked about. So,
Well, and I think one of the things is we tend towards like homogenous groups as people, right?
Sure.
Like, and so whether you're in the local chamber of commerce or the farmer's garden or its community garden or church, those kind of segmentations happen. But I think in a lot of those other organizations, there's not like, and the connection with the etherical and the great beyond and a pressure towards rightness and a pressure towards like, oh, if I'm attending like this meeting, I'm on the right path, but the like slightly different brand of meeting, that could actually lead my soul to go to the bad place because I chose wrong.
yeah. Then you'd meet Ted Danson and have to deal with it.
Yeah.
Well, again, as a pastor, my query about that was, okay, I get it that we typically meet in some kind of neighborhood space, whether neighborhood is geography or emotionally or intellectually. But then there was this clanking door, like at the county jail, when it came to others. There's another around us. What shall we do? There's that feeling of, what about that guy? What about that gal? They don't look like me. They don't dress like me. They make me worry about my children. Where are my kids right now? And that is not equitable to the voice and the heart of Jesus. It's completely opposite of what I read in the New Testament, what I read in the Gospels, and his truly demand, love one another as I have loved you. And this isn't a suggestion or a soft edge. Well, after all this bad stuff, and by the way, love each other.
Right.
This is him saying, you're not even going to be known as my followers unless you love. And then love is risky, love is difficult, love does the heavy lifting. Love says, all right, we've got people that don't look or sound like us amongst us. Let's love them. Let's love them where they are, not where we want to take them.
Right.
And my moniker, No BS Bishop, is that I grew weary of the BS, the both literal BS and the bait and switch. Come on in here. We will love you. After a while, though, we're going to try and change you.
Right.
And that's BS.
Well, that was always, there was that message, and I think it came from a lot of well-meaning people, but
Sure.
there was the, well, we don't hate the sinner, we hate the sin. And like, oh, but like, in that like statement, you're saying that someone's life choices are sin. So, and I mean, I think that was a disconnect for a lot. I don't think it's a disconnect for everyone,
Sure.
but I think that was a big disconnect for a lot of people. You know, I think also a big disconnect for others that I hear. I don't have kids, so this hasn't been a thing for me as much, but just stuff happening, I think, has hurt the church, like the attendance a lot.
Right.
And because I will talk with even like just well-meaning friends, and like, oh yeah, my kids, and this is something I've learned. Being in dance apparently is like the most time-consuming thing your kid can ever get into.
I thought that
That's
was
hockey
Okay.
too, but dance can happen
Really?
year-round.
Oh, well, there you go. That's true.
And like dance seems to always have some trip to like Phoenix or something, which I like Phoenix in January, but like I just noticed that from like
Really?
friends. Like, yeah,
Seems to me. Oh, look, it's the dance season. Now we have to get the equipment.
but like you throw that on top of soccer, you throw that on top of just like a whole work week draining everything and maybe wanted to go camping.
Right.
And so, I mean, that's another thing that I think the church is overcoming. I mean, the one thing I will say is I've started to get back into a few things, especially working with some liturgical churches on doing websites, and they're streaming lately. In fact, these microphones that we're using right now is for a church that I'm working with to do their streaming.
Very cool.
And so I do think that there are some good things happening. I think those resources going out there are good. I think, though, that, like, the message still needs to be there. And I am increasingly scared because of rumblings I hear of even, like, Jesus being too woke for the church.
Oh, I know.
We had this talk, you and I we originally recorded this about a year ago.
Yeah.
And that wasn't even really a thing that was on my radar.
Empathy was just about that time. The word empathy was becoming foreboding.
Yeah.
Too woke. Empathy can be toxic. And after I got up off the floor, having read that on social media, I had to shake my head and wonder. And this was coming from overtly Christian circles, that empathy can be toxic. So I worked that over and came to the conclusion, as I have with love, there is no such thing as a toxic love. Either it's love or it's not. There's not a bad love, mediocre love. For me, love is love, so that whether it's LGBTQ love or heterosexual love or father and son love or mother, daughter, you name it, love is love. It has its various expressions and methods, but empathy was in that. Now empathy is woke. And like I said, I had to get off the floor and shake that out. What is that?
Oh.
And Jesus is incarnation. This is God in flesh, incarnate God. Well, that's empathy. Empathy joins with those that are outside your frame of reference and experiences it, finds some sense of compassion beyond head trip into a full body trip. This is how it works. This is why you feel what you feel. That's empathy. That's incarnation. So, yeah, Jesus is woke. Hallelujah. So the church, all too often, finds itself on the wrong side of history because of whether it's conservative Catholic, conservative Baptist, conservative Pentecostal, conservative. The word conservative means we're hanging on tight to what we know. And that's all we want to know. Unfortunately, you hang on so tight, history keeps moving, and you got to catch up.
Yes.
And that's kind of what we're talking about, right?
I think so, too. It's interesting because I think for quite a while, especially the way we use conservative and liberal, there is that, like, political tinge to them that's obvious. But they also don't really seem to always mean either conservative or liberal anymore, right? Like,
Oh, boy.
I think a lot now about how conservative can mean taking unprecedented actions, increasing the size of government, increasing the size of the police, increasing the size of ICE, etc. And liberal can mean preserving the normalcy of the status quo, just in how those things act. So, I mean, everything has been sort of a mind. I'm looking for the word that's not a swear word after that.
Go ahead.
No, well,
I use the BS.
I know, you use the BS, but we'll say the F then.
Gotcha.
But, like, it's so confusing to want to find that reality, the thing in itself. And I do think that people are searching for it. I mean, I think people are reaching out. I think that's a lot of intentional community. And I think the church does have an opportunity, and some churches are taking that opportunity. I don't want to just give a back rub to the Episcopal Church, but that's the one I've become most acquainted with lately. And I'm seeing that while they have a very traditional, very connected to their past, like very much like, hey, we're doing this like we did it out the gate.
Good point.
this bell that we ring every service, this way we do communion, this liturgy, it's so tied to what we believe in. But we also believe in being accepting, opening our doors, welcoming people. And so there is a room for the church to do a lot of different things to feed into that connection to the past while still being opening and still living in this time. So I don't know, I'm sort of encouraged at the same time I'm discouraged. I just hope that like denominations don't mean political party. Like, I mean, oof.
Yeah, it's starting, I think, it's starting to shake out slowly. But you said something interesting for whether it's a Catholic or an Episcopal church or other more liturgical gatherings, they have this 100-year-old bell that they ring, but after they ring the bell, we're going to sit amongst 21st century humans.
Right.
And this bell is sort of a symbolic anchor. Remember, we're anchored. And some people might say conservative, that's cool as long as we understand this isn't an anchor that I've tied around my concrete shoes that's throwing me off the boat. So yeah, that's a really good point you make, that I find that whether it's Episcopal or a few other expressions that are more liturgical, they've outpaced the change that's happening in more evangelical circles. Because those historic expressions like Episcopalian recognize, boy, it's do or die time. You know, either we change or die.
Right.
And we're not talking years, we're talking weeks or months. And so the pressure has been more real for them, and I think that's been a positive and a beautiful thing that they could say, time out, we've got to talk. I like to say that we have to have some adult conversations.
Right.
And in those adult conversations, we have to own that 1 to 3% of the population we seek to love are found in the LGBTQ plus community. And if we automatically throw them away, we've said something much larger than the percentage. We've said something horrible about the gospel that we're trying to preach. We've said something antithetical to the Jesus we say we worship. Whether that's 1% or 50%, when you wipe them out, something's wrong, something's broken. So the liturgical churches, I think, have a leg up on us.
Oh, yeah.
Well, and I find that in the 30s, 40s generation, people in their 30s and 40s, they're migrating away from evangelical spaces to the other spaces, and I'm encouraged by that too.
Yeah, it's been an interesting progression. I think about it a lot because I grew up in that like late 80s liturgical diaspora that I think we saw across the board a lot. The Assemblies of God or other such like non-denominational churches did pick up a lot of their flock at the time.
They did. Yep.
And it's interesting because I'm even seeing, and I don't want to speak anyone else's story, but I'm even seeing people that left, that stayed faithful to the church, or that's, you know, kept going to church, returning to that liturgical tradition alongside the people who maybe didn't go to church for 20 years and are returning. So that's been an interesting thing.
It really has. And to that end, I've gotten a couple of invitations lately to places that I would never have been invited to speak as a guest speaker had I not stepped out from the shadows of hanging on to more of an evangelical place, a charismatic place, and went about, more so like 9 years ago when I said, wow, I'm feeling like I'm a 12-year-old boy trying to wear my 10-year-old pants. It's choking me. And so when people started recognizing, hey, he's wearing 12-year-old pants now, and I'm not sure we like it anymore. He looked better in those little boy pants. And so I found myself less and less welcome there, but now more and more welcome as a leader, saying what needs to be said, having the courage to have the adult conversation, and, like I said, spiritual refugees who are more of them than there are folks in churches in the United States. That's just a fact. So finding myself there and free now, over the past 6 years in particular, to just go and listen and have that exit interview and make sure that I haven't, and I realize I've contributed wittingly and unwittingly to that exit. And man, I'm 72. I'm not going to die soon, but I can see it from here. It's everybody I see that recently is dying, I'm thinking, oh, I'm getting closer with every day. I want to make sure I leave a legacy. You and I have talked about that a couple times. I want, when people look back at Randy Dean, I want to make sure they can see his legacy was more than just hanging on tight to what was evaporating, but he could let go of that and put himself in a place of productivity and a loving fruitfulness, and a place that was genuinely expressing this fellow we call Jesus.
Right.
In ways that are a little frightening for some folk, but hey, when you're old, you think, hey, I'm going to die anyway. Let's just go for it.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, I think like conversations like this and in this format is good too to meet people where they are. So I really do appreciate what you're doing there with that. Because, yeah, I mean, again, you're not forcing people to go to the 3-song, then money break, then one more song message. And hey, if you're listening and you like church, that's fine. Like,
absolutely.
I don't want to
out.
yuck anyone's yum, like with how specific my
Knock yourself out.
comments are. I think people should go to church. Like, that's
Absolutely.
fine. It's just like not necessarily always been my thing.
Well, somebody said to me to my face just 2 days ago, said, so are you anti-church now? And I said, my gosh, I'm no more anti-church than I am anti-50 years of my life.
Yeah.
I've spent the better part of half of my life and half a century building church. Now I want to make sure I've done the finish work.
Right.
I'm not just swinging a sledgehammer here. I'm seeking to refine and define and do some finish work so that when I step aside and somebody else steps in, there's progress that's been made. And I find myself nostalgic for the 3 songs and the money pitch and the nice sermon, but it gets old fast because I know the drill. I mean, I can almost finish the sermon now because I've preached it myself. Yeah. So and I wanted to bring this in too. I've just also learned that churches are more routinely squeezing their schedule. You mentioned scheduling. There's some churches I'm aware of right now that have gone to 2 Sundays a month rather than pack Sunday to Sunday to Sunday. Others are 3 Sundays a month and then a weekend off. Because we're realizing there are other things in this world on the weekend that are calling for the hearts and lives of the people we love. And let's respect that and not diminish it.
Right, exactly.
So,
well, it's good. I'm glad that realization's happening because I think one of the other things that always got me with going to church was like, oh, I have a scheduling conflict, so I feel guilty now. Like because it was always preached I was so right to go to church. And if I miss church, oops. Yeah. And Jesus is sad for that Sunday. Yeah. And I'm probably in trouble till I go to church again.
And damn you. Yeah.
And so, I mean, I do appreciate that. And I will say this across the board. This is encouraging to me. And I think I've seen this in a lot of churches, even some of the churches that I am maybe having a scant view of otherwise. Yeah. But I've noticed across the board there is a little bit more of a move of like, look, we're all trying our best here.
Exactly. And so, some of it is a generation shift. So for my generation coming in the 70s when I finished my bachelor's work and went into pastoral ministry, the goal was full-time ministry. It means there's got to be some money. There's got to be a full-time salary.
Yeah.
And chasing that became untenable. It just, as the church moved toward the 21st century, so the church's resources were shrinking. And to that end, if you came in for full-time, it became less and less likely, unless, of course, you could hit the TV schedule.
Yeah.
Unless, of course, you could build a multi-campus mega church, which became popular. But part of that was, again, because of the generation of financing.
I suppose a church right now these days, gosh, they have to generate 2,500 a week to have a full-time minister at the very, very least.
Sure.
Probably more like 3 to 4.
Yeah, three is the baseline if you've got a building of any description that's not leaking, and a full-time pastor or a full-time staff person. Yeah, if you're not pulling 3,000 to 4,000 in, you're not making it.
Yeah.
And so those places are going away. And rather than blaming and shaming the spiritual refugees, it's, again, taking stock. What are we doing? And how are we doing it? And wait a minute, where was that passage in the Bible that said, make sure you got $3,000 to $4,000 in Judas's pocket every week so he can pay the bills?
I don't really know in the Bible it said you need to have a full-time minister.
It's not there.
Yeah.
I mean, even Paul, who wrote most of the New Testament, was building tents on the side.
Yeah.
We didn't emphasize that.
I mean, it is a different thing. I think inflation's made this a lot, but all of these things cost money. Like, it's crazy to me because people ask me a lot, and we'll talk on my show a little bit, not to mention my show too much, but
go ahead.
We'll talk on my show, Who's This For, a little bit about what makes communication good in a broad context and speaking to an audience of one. But one of the things that has come up on like 5 or 6 episodes I'm talking with people is like money. Like, it takes a lot of money to make things happen, be it, I was talking about the history of radio with someone. I was talking about
my goodness,
like independent filmmaking with another person. All of these things, they take so much money. Documentary filmmakers even, like, and it's interesting because a lot of times I think the church is it's fine to call this out. Like, a lot of things come down to it, like, oh, there wasn't enough money. And
whoops.
Yeah, and I think like with the church and I guess with other organizations, but there's always been like it's vital, but like it's been like I think in past years there was more of a importance on saving the churches at all costs because they were also really the only community unifier outside of taverns for the most part. I mean, that's why Wisconsin has such a strong tavern history because, like, where else could you go and talk with people?
Right.
So you have churches, you have taverns, and I mean, I know that we have more spaces now, which is good, and so I know that must be an enigma.
It is, and so I come from the Cheers fandom where everybody knows your name.
Second Ted Danson pull of the podcast.
Right. And I loved Cheers, and I loved it so much that I bought all the episodes and I've memorized lines. But the point is, humanity gravitates to companionship, good, bad, or indifferent. We gravitate to a relaxed spot where if I'm just dying, I can say, I'm dying, sucker. How are you?
Yeah.
And it's not about a judgment. It's not about, hey, I'm dying. Can you fix me? It's, I'm dying. Can I buy you around? So church has this opportunity, has had this opportunity to be that. And one of the notes that I wanted to be sure I brought, that I'm a codependent. I grew up in a dysfunctional home. Mom, dad, brother, me, 4 of us. In a space not a lot bigger than this room for 10 years of my formative life. So I learned codependency firsthand. Codependency means I have to fix you, I have to manage you, I have to control you, I have to recruit you, I have to make sure you're happy at all times, and if you're not, then I've got to find out what it takes to sacrifice my life to make your life better. So then religion came along and said, aha, we can monetize that.
Right.
We can get people in our doors because fix, manage, control. Use that codependency. They didn't call it that.
Right.
They called it outreach. They called it evangelism. And more and more folks are savvy instinctively and beyond that. They're savvy to that manipulation. and they're just not gonna go there. They'll go find Cliffy. They'll and let him talk ad nauseum.
Right.
They'll go find Norm and laugh and yuck it up. That's the reality too here. And so in a cheer setting, LGBTQ, somebody shows up and everybody says, what's happening? Who are you? And they say, well, this is who I am. Who are you?
Yeah.
And
no, let's not give taverns a free pass too much on that, because we're in some, like, I mean, sure, maybe here in Osceola, but you go north of 8 and that might change, or you go, you go a little bit further west into this state.
You are so right. You are
let's
so
let's not make these taverns like the
melting pots.
Yeah, they're not melting pot. Like there's some good ones.
Sure. And you're absolutely right. And it's, in fact, I grew up next door to Louis' Blue Eagle Inn, where if you didn't like polka music, get the hell out of here. This is who we are. This is our liturgy. It's going to be, I don't want her, you can have her, she's too fat for me. Hey! And roll out the barrel till 2 a.m. So yeah, there's that. How did we get there? I think I took us there, didn't I?
That's okay. It's a good place.
And it describes the evolution of our culture.
Yeah.
I mean, not only in church, but in taverns. And I see it wherever I go in various places. I just spent a week in the Bible Belt in Texas. And you go into a store and you know it right away. I'm in a different environment. And if I go into...
I can't become a veteran fast enough when I'm in that area.
You're right. You're absolutely right. Wear that cap.
Oh,
baby.
yeah. Literally wear that cap.
Well, everybody says, thank you for your service. Here's your 10%.
Exactly. Thank you, ma'am. I appreciate that, and I will now leave your store.
And we won't discuss my tattoos.
Yeah, exactly.
We just have an opportunity. Again, the shrinking presence of the United States of America church is not the shrinking presence of the need that is always there, screaming need, but neither is it the shrinking presence of spirituality.
Yeah.
Because humans are spiritual. Like it or not, they're going to find a spiritual landing place. And your brother and I, you videoed a podcast that's in my list here. Your brother Gene and I talked about that. The recovery is emphasizing spirituality.
Yes.
More and more so, because you're rarely going to find a church that's going to talk to you about it. So
right.
That's my story, and I'm sticking by it. So what else is good for the consumption of our viewers?
We do have to talk about one thing.
Yeah. Let's do it.
Oh, man, I guess we talked about it earlier, about how things cost money. And we are at a point, and I don't want to be the one to tell you this.
Oh, no.
But we're at a point as a podcast where we literally need money to keep doing these. We've had a lot of great fun going out and visiting people and doing these things, and we want to do a lot more.
Yep.
But it literally costs money. And I'm sorry, I cost money to go to a place for a day.
You pay bills?
I pay bills, yes.
You had to replace a car lately?
Yeah, I had to replace a car, and they didn't want to take any of my good vibes or exposure from. Yeah, they didn't want to support the podcast that way through giving me a car. And Mr. Cooper, my mortgage company, has never said, take this one off, Scott. You're doing good things.
You're good.
So we're going to be asking the viewers of this podcast and supporters for money in the next few months.
And it really goes to the things we value. So to that end, we want to bring value. We're not just, again, BSing you. We're not just baiting and switching. My hope for No BS Bishop, whether it's radio broadcast, the podcast, Sunday night sanctuary that I do, 6 p.m. Central Standard Time on Facebook Live every Sunday. I want to bring value. I don't have a need to just fill the air with my words. Right. That absolutely is outside of my desires. I'd rather go ahead and check out and die and be somewhere and listen to what the nice things they say at my memorial. I want to live with some value left, and that's why I'm doing this. But in that regard, We want to bring that value, and we hope that it's giving value. And to that end, if you can value this with support for me, for Scott, for the podcasting industry in general,
Right.
in particular, I know a corner store podcast.
Yeah.
That's a pretty good hometown brew. So please help us. Really, it keeps this in the places where I want to be. Where it's,
Exactly.
yeah, where I can talk to people who have something of value to put on the table. Yeah,
Fantastic.
that's it.
I'm stoked for the future episodes. I'm stoked for what the future of the show is.
Oh, I am too. Somebody, again, just recently said, hey, I loved your video podcast. Are you going to do more? I said, well, yeah, but have you listened to the solo podcast? They said, where's that? So that's on me. I said, well, okay, I got to send you a QR code, and I got to send you
They
a
should
link
be in
tree.
the same place, though. We call one solo in the title and we call one interview in the title. That's my little marketing thing.
I
for
saw
them.
that, and I thought, oh, that's very simple and to the point.
I think, but
It takes time.
Yeah.
People register that as to this is this and this is
well,
that.
the interview ones too. They're a little bit more memorable in social media. They have those clips. That's the purpose of the video podcast.
Right, absolutely. And so, yeah, and mixing it up has been helpful for me in terms of, so I work 3 jobs. So in my retirement, I'm part-time at a hospital. I'm part-time working for Spiritual Program Retreat, along with your brother, Gene. I am part-time Randy Dean Ministries, No BS Bishop. So when people say, well, what are you doing these days?
Yeah.
And I have to say, what day of the week are we talking about? Because I'm doing a lot of things, but I'm doing them because I love what I have found in them. I love working at this hospital that I work for. It's part-time, but it keeps me in contact with people and their vulnerability. I love working with Spiritual Program Retreat because I have recovery to keep and I have recovery to give when it comes to people who are working the 12 steps for AA and codependency. And I love Randy Dean Ministries at No BS Bishop because it is the volume of my life that Paul talked about it in the New Testament, that he said, our life is an epistle, which is a letter. And he said, I want it to be read. This is my epistle. This is what I want folks to read when there's no Randy around to listen to. Read this, watch this, take this in. And in my absence someday, I hope you hold my feet to the fire. This turned out to be true. This didn't turn out to be true. Give it to me.
Right.
And that I think is an adult conversation. So that's why we're here and why we're doing what we do.
Wow.
Rock and roll.
Yeah.
I got it. Anything else?
I think that was the icing on the cake there for me.
Me too. I like it.
Thanks for listening to the No BS Bishop podcast. If you like the show, leave a comment on it. Or, even better, share it with your friends. And we'll see you on the next one.